The digital media program prepares you to lead the digital media industry. We use technology to send the right message to the right person at the right time with the right media. There are many types of digital media areas, such as e-commerce, e-media, packaging, and motion media. But in this video, we will learn about print media. Let's hear from an expert in this emphasis, Mike Dawson.
Usually it has something to do with getting the ink to go, say, on a plate where you want it to go. In the example of offset lithography, what you do is you have a plate that has a very thin layer of water on it. The plate has areas where the ink will stay on, but the water will roll off. We use kind of a combination of the two, so that you can imagine, having a plate and part of it is going to have a really, really thin layer of water, and in certain parts where we want the ink to be, almost like the water is kind of coaxing the ink onto the plate where we want it. So variable data has to deal with creating documents that are different every single time you print. You could imagine someone receiving an ad, and that ad starting off with hello and then that person's name. Then what happens is, in something like InDesign, probably with a plugin, you have a database of users and it automatically fills in their address. So it already really knows their name, right? So you sort of have that list of people. So you already have that information. And with something like I mentioned previously, the offset lithography, that has a set plate, right? The plate can't really change from print to print. If you're going to create a plate, you're going to create a lot of prints off that plate, thousands, right? But with digital, it allows you to print different copies and make more unique prints. Like, there really isn't any reason why each print can't be unique as long as there's no setup time on the press. And variable data allows for that, because instead of someone having 20 documents that they have to print one at a time, now I have one document that says, oh, for this little part of the print, I need you to go to a database, look up the username, and print that username. So every one of those prints could be different. And that's what variable data is. A graphic designer's job is to solve problems visually. You usually have a predefined message, so something that you want to tell to someone else, and that's like a target audience. So you have a very specific group of people that have a very specific group of needs and wants, and you have to solve the problem of taking that message and creating it in a way that your users are going to receive it. You want to influence their opinion in some way or influence their actions. You want them to do something usually. So usually you're kind of trying to get them to do that. So that's the problem that you have to solve as a graphic designer. So I think of them more as a visual problem solver. InDesign is the compiler, right? So you might have created several documents in Illustrator and several documents in Photoshop, and then InDesign is going to bring them all together into one package. And then once it's in InDesign, you can generally sort of export it. It does lend itself more towards print. You don't really create much in InDesign. It's more like you compile, you gather together in InDesign and put it all together and figure out where on the page it's going to go. You may have several photos that you've edited and created, or kind of artwork, artistic photos that you've created in Photoshop, and a few in Illustrator. Well, now where on the page do they go? And that's sort of InDesign. And then InDesign also kind of moves us on to actually printing it as well. So there's lots of options for that, making sure that the printer has all of the technical requirements that they might need to have in order to print it correctly.
This is a book that I created in InDesign, and it's a side stitch booklet. So as you can see, this is the table of contents. Now, as a graphic designer, you need to be able to lay out the content correctly when you're designing a project. And this is page 3 and 4, and they're called a reader spread. And the correct term for pages is called folios. And this is the printer spread. So this is a page that will be printed on the press sheet. And these are the staples used in the saddle stitch binding. And this is page imposition.
The very first thing is a good monitor, and one that can be profiled and can hold a color profile. These I1 profilers that will stick on here, and it will measure the colors. We'll run through a little algorithm, and it will measure the colors, and it will look at it, and it's producing one color, and it will say, well, that's kind of a little off. You know, my red isn't quite the same red that might get printed. It's attaching it to a standard so that it will adjust that red so that it's correct. We need to have an environment, or like kind of a computer environment, if you will. We're going to get what we see, right? We don't want to, you know, push print and then our skies to turn mostly purple, right? We don't want to see that. We want things to come out, we want them to be as we see them on the screen.
I've been asked to explain how the technology of offset lithographic printing works. And this is a printing plate right here. When we are printing, we will actually use this little swatch book to compare what we're printing to the swatch. When we do 4-color process work, we use the densitometer very much. This helps us keep track of the solid ink density of the solid swatches that are printed on the paper. This is the heart and soul of laser printing itself. It all operates on positive and negative electrostatic charges. Initially, the photoreceptor itself here is given an electrical charge. The image to be created is created with the laser. And via physics, when the laser strikes the photoreceptor, it reverses the charge that the receptor has. This is a piece of paper where actually the lower portion here, you can see where this is exactly the same image as that, but it looks very different in color. See how red it is here and how orange it is here. This is the same amount of toner. This piece of paper stuck in the machine. It's stuck at this point right here. This was under the fuser and this part wasn't. So you can see here as I rub here, it's all on there, it's clear, nothing is coming off. But if I rub up here, you will see that this just all comes right off of my finger because it has not bonded. I've been asked to give a description of some of the equipment in the image transfer lab. And this is one piece of bindery equipment. It's a very simple buckle folder. Over here we have a Ryobi 3302HA. This is an offset lithographic printing machine. As you can see here, it has 2 towers, tower 1, tower 2. If you look in the sides here, you'll see that they're both identical as far as the controls go, but we print maximum 2 colors at one time on this machine. Over here is the control console. This is where we do the imposition. This is our challenge on Titan 265 paper cutter.
I've heard it described as old, and yeah, it is pretty old. But at the same time, people seem to have gotten this sense that it's going away, that it's going to disappear one day. But you're always going to need a box for your cereal. And that box isn't just going to be cardboard. It's going to have something printed on it. And whether that was printed with an offset press with a digitally created plate, or an HP Indigo, which is a digital press, then yeah, print's still alive and well.
In this video, we learn about what print media is, how it's used in this industry, where it came from, the technology behind print, and what careers are waiting for you in this exciting field. Thank you for watching.